Let's go. Yes. Yes, sir.
Cook up.
Yes, sir. Back up in this thing. Yeah, we get into it. Y'all already know what it is. Y'all already know what it is. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Dante, man. We back with another one. This is the Nfluence Podcast, where we focus on growing our relationship with God, our relationship with self, and our relationship with people. And a constant reminder, as always, you don't need 1 million followers to be an influence. So today, I'm excited for, this topic. Something I've been seeing in my own personal life, something I've struggled with. And I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for this one for sure. Shout out to everybody who is subscribed. You know what I'm saying? You on YouTube and you watching, you showing some love and you subscribed. I appreciate that. If you tapped in on the Apple Podcast or on Spotify Podcast, I appreciate you as well. Definitely share, put your people on. This for you and yours as always. I think we had about 846 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're one of those 846, I appreciate you. Leave a review on Spotify Podcast and Apple Podcasts as well if you're enjoying the content, things like that, and it is showing value to you. I definitely appreciate it, helping this thing grow. And let's get into it. Like I said today, I'm excited for this topic. It's real personal. And so I want to be touching on some self-care, and there's something I found in Proverbs that I feel like is something we should all be applying to our lives, something very important. And so a couple questions to start this thing off. And this is really something to think about for yourself pertaining to in the relationship field, with your friendships, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever it is like that. So a couple questions, right? Do I lack boundaries? Right? Do I have expectations of the people who say they love me? Expectations for or from people that say they love me, right? Is it wild to say I love me too much to give any and everybody access to my heart? And lastly, how do I stop giving my heart to people that hurt me? So these are a few questions that I'm hoping to answer with this topic. So it's just a few questions that, you should think about for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so today, like I said, the principle I found in Proverbs, guarding your heart. We're going to get into that today, man. I know part of the Nfluence Podcast is to help you with self-love, self-care, and I feel like I don't really touch much on that topic. So I felt like I needed to get into it today. And so let's get into it. All right, so Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. So chapter 4, verse 23 says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Real short, real simple, to the point, you dig? And so when I read this, and as I was, writing and looking things up, one thing that came to my mind is the idea of a security guard, right? So it tells us to guard our heart with diligence, right? Keep our heart with diligence. And so when we think about a security guard, I looked up some duties. I found like 5 joints from some website, American Global Security or whatever it is. And one thing they said for the security guard is to ensure safety of people or property. Another thing is to monitor and control access to the area, respond to emergency or incidents, Another thing is to conduct regular patrols and inspections. And lastly, maintaining accurate details of reports. So the question now is, are we doing anything remotely close to that when it comes to our heart? Right? Excuse me. Whew. Are we doing anything like that when we think about how we are? And it doesn't even just have to be pertaining to relationships, even things that we consume and entertain, things we watch, things we listen to. So that's something to think about. Are we assessing what's going on and the people that are coming in our lives? And some people think this scripture isn't to tell us to wall up. It is telling us to assess. And so when I think about it and it says guard, a security guard is going to let one of the things, one of the points of a security guard, the duties, right, to monitor and control access to the area. So that means you're on alert. Who's coming in here? Right? What's your name? Who are you? What you about? Before I let you into this room, into this area, I need to see if you cleared to be in here. You can't just, anybody just can't waltz up in an event. Did you pay to get in here? You in the VIP? You ain't getting in VIP. I don't see your name on the list, y'all. Dog, move out the way. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just roll up in spots unannounced, uninvited, with no clearance. Like that's not how it works. So when it comes to our heart, we have to be running through certain checkpoints, studying people, seeing how they move, how they interact, how do they treat you, how do they treat people around them, and then you determine if you want to give this person access to your heart. But sometimes we don't do that. And then, you know what I'm saying, things don't always go how we expect them to go. So we ought to assess people, assess what we can tolerate in our own hearts by letting this person come in. And so another thing I like to think about when it comes to guarding your heart, we need to own our space and own, I guess, our energy, right? So similar to the security guard point, once this person is cleared to come in, so let's think of the heart as a room. Once you have cleared this person to come into this room, now I'm watching and I'm assessing what this person is doing in this room. Are you in here acting a fool? So pertaining to my heart, are you playing with me? Are you not taking care of my heart? Are you playing with my emotions? Are you dismissive of my emotions? Do you really care how I feel about anything? Do you care how you hurt me? Do you care about this relationship? How does this person act? Because sometimes we let people in the room and they act a fool and we never kick them out, which causes more damage. So we need to own our space and own our energy. And and it's crazy because I heard it in the movie, and Two Can Play That Game, and Anthony Anderson and Morris Chestnut was battling against Vivica A. Fox or something like that. If y'all ain't see that Jay, go watch that Jay. It is hilarious. But Anthony Anderson and Morris Chestnut, he was like his coach in his relationship or whatever it is like that. But he was telling him, and this is true that they say about the first law of thermodynamics, that energy isn't lost, but it's transferred or transformed or something like that. Right? They say it's never created or destroyed or whatever it is like that. So I think it's important, even when we own our space, we have to also assess, like I said before, about what your heart can tolerate. Sometimes we We try to make ourselves available to our friends, to our family, and sometimes they just unload on us. And the good energy you may have had, now they're venting to you about their struggles and things like that. And now your energy may be off. You may have been having a good day, and hearing them vent and unload on you, it'll change your energy. It might even exhaust you, because when you sit and you listen to somebody rant and rant and rant, and you're trying to also support them at the same time, even that sometimes can, drain you out. And the good energy you may have had, it just transformed into maybe something different. So that's something to think about. And I feel like it's important for us to be careful of people projecting on us. That's something to be very careful of. And like we said, guarding our heart. Sometimes we listen to our friends, we listen to family, our spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, whoever's in your life. And when they try to talk to you, and it's all masked in love, or masked in, oh, I'm just trying to look out for you. But sometimes it's really them just hating on the low. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's crazy, because people really sometimes don't even realize they doing that. That because you failed at something, now you trying to tell me, oh, it's not going to work. Oh, don't waste your time, or whatever it is like that. I don't want you to be like me. But sometimes it's like, yo, who are they to tell us that? Who are you to stop me from this? So sometimes that's another thing. Like, when we're assessing our relationships, assessing the people that we give our hearts to and things like that, like, we got to really be sure of owning our space and take ownership, like take pride in it. Because the heart is very delicate. I feel like this is important because a lot of people get their hearts broken. A lot of people get played with. But sometimes it's like, maybe some of these things could have been prevented if we simply vetted people out and put them through the right process, and you just watch them and study them and just see how they even interact with people that are their so-called friends. And so, like I said, when people play with your heart, when they mistreat you, when they start causing chaos and destruction in the room of your heart, it's time for you to escort them out of there. This is part of guarding your heart. Why? Because you have just proven yourself untrustworthy and destructive to me, harming my feelings, harming my space. And that's not right to me. And it's not right for me to myself to know that this person, every time they come around, they do this. Every time they come around, they just wild out. But I'm going to keep them in the room. I'm going to keep on giving, and I'm going to keep on letting this person do that. Like, at some point, you got to stand on business. Sometimes you got to stand up for yourself and just say, like, yo, all right, I love me, yo. I choose me, yo. Yo, dog, every time you come over here, you with this energy. You doing this, you doing that, and I don't like that. And it's our right to tell people who we allow into our lives, or there has been an agreement between us to be friends, to date, to whatever it is. Even even with coworkers and things like that. If there's a mutual thing going on, an agreement that we're supposed to have this sort of relationship, like, once people start wilding out and doing things that doesn't represent what that title is supposed to be, you have a right to bring that up and say, yo, I don't like how you treating me. I don't like how you moving like this. And if that person is like, yo, I don't care. If they moving with this I don't care type of thing, they're not paying attention, they really not trying to make any changes, and they keep harming you, you already know what to do. It's time to throw the deuces up. So, And sometimes it's hard because this even comes with family, like, you know what I'm saying? And obviously you can't cut family because they family, so it's like you're gonna see them. But sometimes our family, like I always tell people, yo, family, like just because, like I hear this word and people bring up family, but they use it as if family is incapable of harming you worse than the people you don't even know out on the street. Of course the enemy would love to use your family because they the closest ones to you. They the ones who might have the easiest access. They're the ones, because they're family, I'll be disarmed. So I'll hang around them. I won't really be as alert as somebody I don't know. I don't know you from Adam. So nah, dog, I'm not playing them type of games. But when it's your family and you've been to the cookouts, you've been at the family reunions, and you've hung out with cousins, your uncles, your aunts, whatever it is, it's kind of like you're disarmed. But we just gotta have those boundaries, and we just gotta be on alert, because just because they family will do you dirty too. Cain killed Abel, and just because they family doesn't mean that in the lowest point they won't do something to you for personal gain. They won't, that like, just because they family don't mean in a moment of weakness, oh, they won't snake me to get so that they could come up. Nah, they're human, they're flawed just like us. So family will do you greasy too. But again, we need to take ownership of our space and our energy. And so with the Proverbs scripture, and this one is more so about us, about ourselves, not necessarily all the way about relationships, but the cross reference to this scripture goes to Matthew chapter 15, verse 18 and 19. Verse 18 and 19, excuse me. So Jesus says, "But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. For these are the things that defile a man." That's in verse 20. But to eat with unwashed hands defileth not a man. So when I look at this, we got to guard our hearts also, because we have to understand we were made in the image of God, right? Genesis, let us make man in our own image. We should walk in that. You know what I'm saying? Knowing who the God is that made us, and understanding, all right, what are we supposed to be? How are we supposed to live in his eyes? And when we look at this, we're to guard our hearts, even so we don't produce the evils that Jesus was just talking about, right? Out of the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. Like, you want to guard your heart so that you don't walk into things like this. And even though I said, like, not just guarding our heart for relationships, but even in this, two of these things that Jesus said, adulteries and fornications, these are relationships. These are sexual immoralities. Adultery, you messing with a married person, or you stepped out and broke covenant. Fornication, premarital sex. So we even have to guard our hearts from ourselves so that we don't commit these evils. And you want to guard your heart so that you're not giving your heart to people who will try to move you into these type of lifestyles. So, that's something to think about. And I think it's just something so that we don't produce these evils, that we should seek God and his will for our lives. What does he have to say on certain things? Proverbs. I think Proverbs 3, verse 6. Let me see if I can find verse 6. All right, so this is the scripture. Well, I'll just go with 5 through 7. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil. So acknowledging God in our relationships. God, should this person be my friend? Should this person be my boyfriend, my girlfriend? Should I be dating this person? God, is this the man I'm to marry, the woman I'm to marry? You know, it's just certain things that we just gotta acknowledge him so that he can direct our paths, even in our friendships. Sometimes, like I said, family are people too, man. They flawed too. So family is hard because, like I said, you can't cut them off. But even submitting that to God, to ask him to help you in how to walk in this and how to handle this situation, because you're gonna see them. And so sometimes when you beefing with family, or if you have a close relative or something like that, and they violating, you know, it's kind of hard. It's not like the random person in the street. You know, you cut them off and it just is what it is. Family is just different because you know there's the odds of seeing them again and again and again. So it's a little bit harder to walk that out. But again, asking God for direction, because you know there's nothing that we can say or there's nothing we can't submit to the feet of Christ that he hasn't lived or that he hasn't felt. You know, he's the great high priest. He's our intermediator. And he just knows. You know what I'm saying? So another thing, we have to guard our hearts. And this one I feel like is really big. Guarding our hearts of expectations. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Expectations is like one of those low key joints that you don't. It's like unwritten rules. You know, and it's really unspoken expectations that do the biggest damage, because we hold people to standards that they didn't even know they were being held to. They didn't even know you had these expectations of them. You know, so when they find out that, oh, I hurt you like that, oh, this, that, I can't, you don't want me doing this. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me? But yet you mad at me though. So we have to guard ourselves with expectations. One thing I feel like is people have titles. Yeah. So we need to guard our hearts of expectations. People are given titles, and because they bear this title, we think and expect them to meet those qualities. You know? Like I said with family, because you family, there's no way my cousin will do me greasy like that. And I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but even why do you think some of the people who have experienced certain things from the evils of their family, their aunt, their uncle, or cousin, or whatever, did something to them when they was younger, or whatever it is like that? And I hate that people think this is something, oh, what happens in this house stays in this house. What's in this family stays in this family. And then people are left carrying the disgust, the shame, the guilt for years, knowing my uncle or my aunt did this to me. My cousin did this to me. My brother or my dad did this to me. But y'all want me to be quiet though. It's nasty. But the expectation is you my family. That's what I'm saying. Like, of course the enemy will use your family because you're disarmed. And I'm not saying go around looking at your own family on some like, man, get the freak away from me. I don't trust none of y'all. I'm not saying that, but there is a flawed nature in every human being. And just because they're your family don't mean they're incapable of doing you wrong. So because this person is your brother, you expect them to support. You expect them to be there for you in your lowest moments. You expect them to, ride for you. A friend, same thing. Your boyfriend or girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your father, your mother. You have expectations of these people because they bear these titles, right? And I feel like it's crazy that we have to guard our hearts even from that, because I guess sometimes we think they won't miss the mark. And that's really when it hurts, when they do that. But one thing I was praying about it, and I asked the Holy Spirit. I was just praying, and I was really just asking the Holy Spirit about a situation that I was in with somebody in my life, and I'm just like, man, how you deal with this situation? And it was like I was expecting something out of somebody, and then I feel like the Holy Spirit was saying people can only give what they have. So because this person was wearing a title, if they don't have it, they can't give it. So if someone is emotionally unavailable, don't expect that person. And if they've been like that in all their relationships, do not expect for you to be the lucky person. They've proven it. And it's not just with you. So it's like you have an expectation for them to do this because you have now labeled them a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever it is like that. But when you see them in their other relationships, they're like that in the other ones too. So your expectation should actually be you ain't gonna get it neither. So for an example, you wouldn't go to a kiddie pool expecting the same experience as if you went 5 feet, 6 feet, all of that type of stuff. It's a different experience. And with the kiddie pool, you ain't swimming. It don't matter how deep you try to go with some people. If they don't have that emotional availability, if they don't have emotional intelligence, if they don't know how to treat you, treat your heart, have reciprocity, like if they don't know these things, or not even if they don't know, if it's just not built in them, they don't have it to give. And sometimes we do ourselves a disservice by running to them even when we see they can't do it. And it makes me think of the scripture, a hope deferred makes the heart sick. But sometimes it's just wild, because even like, let's say I'm thirsty, right? Let's say I'm somebody and I'm wild thirsty. I'm not gonna go in the cabinet and get the shot glass to pour water in it or juice in it, because the shot glass is not able to give me what it is I need. I'm gonna be drinking, pouring water, drink. Like, I'm gonna be there all day because it's not designed for that. And it's actually my fault for misusing it. But if I get a regular cup, I could fill that joint up and I'll be good by the time I'm done. I'm not gonna be thirsty. But if I go to the shot glass, I'm gonna be wild thirsty. Especially if I only take one. So we can't expect our thirst to be quenched if we run to the shot glass, if we're using the shot glass. And sometimes I feel like that's what we do with people. And how would you know they're your shot glass? Is by, you could just tell from how they carry themselves, how they move in their other relationships. What are some conversations that y'all have? Because sometimes you could tell some people just aren't deep. It's very surface level things. It's and they just don't know how to deal with feelings, especially men. Because a lot of the times we don't talk about how we feel. We suppress stuff and we move on. So much so to the point, some men, we just suck at communicating. And before we can have an expectation of anybody else validating our feelings, we got to validate our own feelings first. Something women do very well. So, like, I remember one time talking with my wife, but this is when we was dating. She was the first person to really say this to me, that, like, if something was bothering me, she would ask me what's going on. I'm like, yo, nothing, man, ain't nothing. And she's like, no, it is something. And she was saying, like, yo, because you feel it is valid. And I was like, what? Because as a man, we're not given permission to feel. That's how it feels, at least. You know, if we say how we feel, sometimes it's dismissed, or especially when we communicate it to our significant other, it's undermined by them then going and saying, no, I feel like this. And now it's like you just completely blew up everything I just said because you felt attacked, and now you responded, and it's like, yo, can we just address what I just brought up? You know? But some people, going back to the titles, based on their consistency, like what we see, they've proven themselves unworthy. You know, and I thank God that even for people who may not have had a friend, he's a friend. Like, God is always there. You know what I'm saying? And I thank God for even having people around so that even if you don't have the father, the mother, you ain't got friends or whatever it is like that, God can place people in your life and use them to teach you, to raise you up. And then when you get older, it's like sometimes you could really just step back and really look and just thank God, like, yo, it could be worse. It really could be worse. And like I said, some people just, with these titles and what we see through the proof of their consistency, we shouldn't have any expectation. Or we have to eliminate the unrealistic ones. As I said, hope deferred makes the heart sick. So sometimes because we have these expectations, when the expectations is high, you just opened up a bigger probability of disappointment. So that's just something to think about. Pertaining to our relationships also, I remember I was listening to Masego. He got a song called Shallow. And that song is so, like, it's so fire to me. I remember I was playing it with my wife and I was bumping to that J. And it's so catchy, but it's so true. And what I get from that song is a man who desires to take a relationship with a woman to another level. But as he says in the song, my baby's shallow. And he says that she's afraid of water. She can't swim. Don't know. I think he says, don't know why I even bother, or something like that. But when I hear the hook, it's like a constant loop. And this is what I mean by the problem with the expectations, or the problem with the expectations. What he was going through in that song is like a loop of I have high hopes, expectation, and then she doesn't meet it, and then I have high hopes and expectations, and then she doesn't meet it. But because you actually like the person or desire the person, much like him in that song, you keep running back. At this point, it's like they've, like I said, through the proof of consistency, they have proven themselves unworthy. I'm not going to keep running to the dry well anymore. It's like we run sometimes with some of the people that we've given our heart. It's a dry well, and you have an expectation that they're gonna treat you right or whatever it is like that, and you drop your bucket in the well and you start yanking it up, and then it's empty. And so what Masego was dealing with, it's a loop of hope and disappointment, I'll say. And then he talks about some of the things in the verse and everything like that. Will, But anyway, if y'all ain't hear that song, that joint is fire. Next thing I want to get into, since we talking about wells, John 4, verse 11 through 14. This is the woman at the well, who was a Samaritan. I guess I'll just go to verse 10. Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou would have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. The woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us this well, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle? Jesus answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. So with these expectations, there's only one person who can meet and live up to expectations, and that's Jesus. That's God. But we got to be careful even with this, that we don't have, even with God, unrealistic expectations. Some people honestly believe that they can ask God for anything and everything, and he'll grant it to them. No. You need to make sure your heart is in alignment with his will. And if your prayers and things like that, your requests are in alignment with his plans for you, then it's granted. I don't think if I ask God for $1 million, he gonna give it to me. I'ma just be honest. So sometimes we take some things, especially when he's the supplier of our needs, but we have expectations and treat him like a genie, like he's supposed to give us everything we want. It's not how it works. But when Jesus says that he's gonna be like, if I give you a drink, the water I'm giving, you'll never thirst again. I feel like, what we see now in the world today, people run to all these different things because they're trying to cope with a feeling inside, or they're trying to find something. It's almost like God embedded in us the desire to know him, which is why people worship anything. You got the people who worship the earth. And it's wild because Genesis tells us we're supposed to have dominion over it. But yet you honestly believe your crystals is doing something for you. I don't know. But God is the one who meets our needs. He's the one who's going to give us that water where it's like, and I kind of feel that because it's like, you're not going to be in want with him. You know, like I said, when people run into stuff, people run to drugs, people run to sex, people run to certain things to fill a void. But with Jesus, you're not going to thirst again once you with him. You don't need to do the things that you used to do. You don't need to get that high anymore, because he supplied the need. He has revealed himself. You have walked in a relationship with him, and you see that nothing else matches him. So I'm not going to run to those other things anymore, because those are dry wells. Those wells are, there's no point. I don't need that anymore. And I even beg the question, if those things we ran to before, Jesus said, you drink of this water, you will thirst again. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it did supply you with something, but it ain't what Jesus is going to give. Straight like that. Yeah, people are thirsty every day, seeking for peace, seeking for love. And like I said, to know God, to know our Creator. Because it's not like out in the world, people do say, I do believe in a God. But for whatever reason, when you bring up Jesus, they off the rip, people start going, wow, I don't know. So another thing. Oh, and yeah, like I have written down that people run to all of these things, but it's through Jesus that we get the life that we really want. We get fulfillment. We get the peace. We get life everlasting. Like, Jesus said he come to give you life abundantly, more abundantly. So it's just something to keep in mind. The next thing, even in marriage, and I actually listened to the 30. I don't even think it's 30 minutes with the Perrys anymore, but Preston and Jackie was talking about guarding your hearts in marriage, and so even in that, you got to guard your hearts, and we're all consumers, and I think I talked about this. Excuse me. I think I brought it up earlier in the pod, but even in marriage, you got to guard your heart. Because there is a lot of stuff going on. We see even now with TikTok, right? A whole lot of information, so much so that the government wants to shut it down. I don't believe them. They got their own reasons. They really trying to shut this joint down. But they talk a lot about the information that's getting spread. But everybody's consuming something. You're watching something. You're listening to something. And we got to guard our hearts even in marriage, because we let a lot through our eye and our ear gate. And those things can help or hurt your marriage. Comparison with social media. It's like a gift and a curse. But it's so different now, and we compare ourselves. We compare our life to people who are, I don't want to say finished products, but I had to guard myself, because I would listen to podcasts that talk about marriage and things like that, and these people are in like year 20, 25, 30. Why am I tripping about what they on, and I'm only in 7 months? That don't make no sense. But sometimes I see that couple that's in year 30, and I can see how they're communicating, or I can see something go on, and I'm like, man, I wish I had that. Now you let comparison get in. But it's like, yo, they're at year 30. It's a lot of grinding they had to do to get to this point. So how can I compare month 7 to year 30? It just don't make sense. Or year 10, year 20, year 5. It just don't make sense. But social media what people don't understand, what we don't understand a lot of times, this is people's highlight reel. So when you get on their profile and you going to see their best. Don't nobody get on social media and post the worst. This is your bulletin board. This is your billboard to the world. You're not about to put a trash flick. You want people to look at it and hit the like button and all of this other stuff. But social media, sometimes it just shows the best. But people don't often give the real, which is the struggle and the grind and, things like that. So, like I said, we consume a lot, and we got to guard our hearts from comparison. That's why they say comparison is the thief of joy, because, when you start comparing yourself to other people, you don't know what they had to do to get to that point. And it's so crazy, like, if people were to come out and say, to get here, I did this. Would you even do it? So it's like, what we wasting this energy on? Why are we letting this in? We need to focus on and run our race. Live the life God gave us. So, that's kind of all I got with as far as with guarding the heart. Oh no, last thing. This is something I feel like I actually had it written down a while back, but I never posted it. But Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. Jesus says, "Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you." So, this one, I feel like is important even for us guarding our hearts as well. Because what I got from this was we have to understand value assessment. And because of somebody's inability to assess your value, that's not your fault. So going back to guarding our hearts, who are we giving access to, letting them in our room to terrorize everything around us, and we still letting them stay in the room? We communicate to the person what they're doing wrong or how they're hurting us, how they're not meeting our needs, yada, yada, yada. And they continue to do these things. It's like, if that pearl, I look at as our time, our energy, our heart. And the swine does not know value assessment. Now, as harsh as that sounds, I'm not saying just start calling people swine or pigs, but I'm just saying they don't know value. So this explains why they're able to, when you set that boundary, they disrespect it and go right past it. This explains why when you give them your heart, they fumbling, they mishandling it. They don't know value, because if they knew value, they will hold on to that. If there was like a diamond in their hand, they'll hold on to that joint, make sure they don't trip and fall, nothing like that. But nah, sometimes people be playing with your heart, with our hearts. And so at some point, we got to know when to walk away from certain situations and let time do what time does. Time not only heals, but it reveals. And sometimes people don't get it. But let time run its course, and time will teach. Or it won't. But either way, this is about guarding our hearts. And I just feel like we need to take care of ourselves much, much better. And a big part of that is who we let in our lives and what we allow them. They say you teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you tolerate. So if they violating, you tolerating it, don't be surprised when they do it again. This is about setting boundaries and letting people know, like, this is how I feel about this. Don't do this no more. You want to stay in a relationship with me? You want to keep this friendship? You want to keep whatever it is we got? Yo, dogs, don't cross this line because it hurts me. And now I'm going to be looking at you funny. And at some point, we got to know who people are. We got to look at them and say, listen, man, I believe your actions more than I believe the words coming out of your mouth. You tell me you love me, but you stab me in the back every chance you get. You tell me you love me, but there's no reciprocity. You tell me you love me, but you're never available. You tell me you love me, but you hurt me. Dogs, I don't care what's coming out your mouth no more. Your actions is preaching a different message. So therefore, there's inconsistency. There's contradiction. So therefore, I can't mess with you. I just can't. Love don't mean give someone access. You could love people from a distance. And at the end of the day, we got to take care of ourselves. Because if we in a plane crash, the mask coming down, you got to take care of you before you take care of somebody else. And so I feel like that's just what we got to do. And so that's all I got. I'm going to get on up out of here, man. That's all I got for y'all today, man. If you made it to this point, I hope this was a blessing.
Cook up.
I really do. Make sure you hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit the bell notification as well. If you're watching on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, please be sure to leave a review. 5 stars, preferably. You dig? And yeah, I just pray that this was beneficial, that this was edifying to you, that you got something from it. Get in the comments. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. Let me know your struggles. Let me know how you've perfected things like this or how you handle your relationships and stuff like that. But anyway, man, y'all stay up. Y'all stay blessed. Keep walking with God. Keep the faith strong. Yeah, peace and love as always. And yeah, that's all I got. Peace.